Cool. Into our final session for the day. I'd like to start by a quick introduction, I guess, to each of the panelists, and maybe each of you can tell a little bit about yourselves and your companies and what you do. So we'll pass it over. So Ed Cuddy from Conde.
Hi, I'm Ed Cuddy from Conde Nast. So I'm the VP of engineering there. So I'm the engineering team for the last few years. And so yeah, at Conde we have been over the last 3 years really been transitioning everything to a Node-based platform. And so we use Node pretty much the entire stack everywhere. Pretty much about 90% of our code base is JavaScript. These days, we still use other things for certain special purposes, but otherwise, pretty much JavaScript everywhere.
Hi, Adam Griffiths, Director of Engineering and Architecture at News UK. We publish The Times and The Sun. What do? I like building stuff, really. I build stuff at home. In fact, I'm kind of building my home. I've not quite finished it yet. So that's made of wood and render and stuff. I'm working on that. And at work, I kind of turn out to work and build more stuff. We do software at work. It makes me happy.
I'm Steve Elliott, tech lead at Late Rooms. We sell hotel rooms. We've been moving a lot over to Node in the last couple of years now. It's kind of been a big transition for us, and kind of going away from being a sort of a single stack to being kind of what the right tool for the right job is. Being involved in that transition has been really good, and the whole learning process has been brilliant.
Cool. Hello, Jason Mello at Lifion by ADP, Chief Architect over there. So ADP, if you're not familiar with it, is essentially the largest payroll and HR company in the world. And we are building a distributed runtime for HR in the cloud. And that is powered primarily by Node.js. And then on the front end, we leverage React. So we are a JavaScript house and making large investments there.
Do you want to introduce yourself as well, Richard?
Hey, I'm only here to stop them running away because of the door. I'll just do both. Myself and Cian set up Nearform a couple of years back, and have been annoying the Node community, I guess, for the last the last 5 years. I do the tech stuff, and Cian does the business stuff.
So I guess I'll start with a kind of softer question, just to kind of, start gently. So, how has Node impacted your life?
All right, I guess that's quite the deep question. It's filled a hole that I didn't know I had. I guess, I don't know. Yeah, well, my most of my career and development world was in JVM land and all of that stuff. So, Node has fairly dramatically changed the way that I guess I perhaps look at software and look at what we're doing. So it's been kind of it's pushed me into the JavaScript world where I was decidedly not before that. So I think I guess it's probably changed that a lot about me.
I'm not quite sure how many years I've been programming Node or anything else, but I programmed a bunch of languages. I always went for those really well-formed ones, and I thought I'd look at this dirty little thing called JavaScript. And I've forgotten how to program anything else now. And I think the way Node's changed my life is I actually finished what I started. I come up with an idea, and I used to be learning how to make it look pretty, but now I kind of build fast, and the heating works in my house. That work runs on Node, so it's made my family warm.
Well, until Node, I was a .NET developer, so I kind of hope it's made me cooler. Is that thing? I mean, having come from .NET, it was, they're kind of embracing the open source world. Node.js was a pretty larger revelation into what goes on in there, though. So it was kind of a gateway into what goes on to open source software. Getting more involved in that, Node.js has been really transformative for that sort of thing. I have quite the opposite problem, actually. I probably finish less projects, but I start a lot more of them. And I think it's kind of like Node's lightweight nature that kind of it fits well with my flighty thought process. Like, oh, I'll start something over there. Oh, no. So it's pretty big.
Yeah, so probably for me, Node has forever warped my mind into asynchronous event patterns, and now that's how I see the world. So.
So I'll grab the next one. So now that Node has changed your life, you kind of have to look to the future all the time. And I guess one of the things that we'd be really interested in knowing is looking at what's coming down the road in terms of Node 6 and JavaScript and all that sort of stuff. What are you most excited about? What is going to, I guess, impact what you're doing in the next year the most?
So looking at ES6, looking at ES7, and some of the development that's going on there, I think for us is things like generator functions. I think are going to be super interesting, and generators in general, as well as native promises and a lot of just kind of the syntactic sugar. I think is helpful. Things like classical inheritance as a transpilation. I think will allow kind of developers to more easily get into JavaScript development in general, as well as then you have things like bleeding from all different languages. So especially from Python, right? You have a lot of list comprehensions coming in, and a lot of ways to kind of a lot of new ways to express your code and get away from some of the kind of nasty bits that JavaScript has been vilified for in the past.
A lot of what I'm looking forward to. It's not necessarily language constructs. Syntactic sugar is great, but I'm going to be buzzword compliant and say serverless architecture. It's really exciting at the moment. To be able to just throw applications into an environment, have them run, takes a lot of the pain away from there. Although you don't need Node for that. Node certainly seems to be at the forefront of that, and it really seems to be kind of helping push it all forward. So mainly things around making it easier to deploy code, to get it live, to run it. That's the stuff I'm kind of really looking forward to in the future, the next year.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with this. I think some of these future things can't come fast enough for me. I Googled about the future of Node this morning. The second result I got was Microsoft is the new host for Node.js. I don't know if anyone agrees, but didn't they take over the JVM once? Didn't that go wrong? Anyway. I do. If Microsoft helped by accelerating, I'd be delighted. I was really excited about promises, getting rid of the callback hell. I still am, but almost promises seem a bit old now. The observable and reactive kind of programming, I'm really excited about, and kind of cutting down the number of lines you need to write just to do something simple. So that's what I'm looking for as fast as possible.
I guess it's kind of interesting, actually, that the question about what we're looking for in Node, actually, like Node is the least of those things that looking for, right? It's a year ago that would have been probably a lot different, and I think, on the Node front, it's actually okay. Like we're pretty solid. Like it's not something that we really deal with. JavaScript, on the other hand, yes, is like constantly, obviously, and for us, we're doing a lot with we use React everywhere. And we're doing React Native. The Vogue app that just launched recently was 90% JavaScript, about 85% JavaScript, right? So. In that kind of world, and what does that really mean, and how does that all play together? And those things are moving so quickly right now that it's a little bit insane. But I think it's intriguing. Like I agree with these other things and the architectural things as well. But I guess to add that, like for me, the other piece is that all these things, like the JavaScript space, has always been in flux, and in some ways, it actually seems to be stabilizing a little bit. But at the same time, like there's constantly like the number of revs that you have to keep constantly updating all the time is insane. And so, but we're having a lot of success, and it's kind of that continuation of what Node did to bring JavaScript to the server, the ability for us to use it everywhere, on native experiences, and it's interesting that, things like React Native are adopting Microsoft, again, is going to be bringing that there as well. So, that kind of JavaScript world of JavaScript everywhere seems to actually becoming something that wasn't just, hack, but is actually, becoming really something you can do in production.
So on that, I guess, front end and back end JavaScript are two sides of the same coin. But do you think that they're going to, pull the community in two different directions over time?
Okay. That's an interesting question. I think it's, I think like to the point from the previous talk about engineers and kind of where they come from, right? And engineers that come from, maybe more pure front end or quote unquote front end or application driven experience versus infrastructure or systems experience. There definitely is a different skill set or capability that they have when they come into the Node world. Does that necessarily mean like those need to continue to be bifurcated? I guess what I see is ideally those become less and less, right? I think that always the whole front end back end thing has been problematic separation, and in theory Node is trying to break that down, and I guess I hope that it lands in a place that it's actually, those do come together more, and that they're not, you continue to see, it's really more a gateway drug for people to get to a more holistic software engineering experience.
I think there will be a lot of consolidation, but I kind of don't always want that. I quite like the fact that the front end and the back end are a bit like sparring partners. It's like, the browsers want to do something different. Mobile's driven a new behavior, or indeed like Angular and React having a punch up. Who's going to do best out there, and then what happens is, well, they all wanted a server-side render anyway, so they taught the server-side guys something, and then the server wants to do something we've not done before. Maybe it's about the clustering, and who knows, we might have a little microservice clusters on our desktop or in our mobile. So I just love the fact they feed each other, they solve a different problem, and a year later they kind of share the answer. So I think there is consolidation to come, but I like the separation too, and long may it continue.
I think Node.js has done a really good job already of bringing the kind of the front end and the back end communities together. We had a time where you would literally have a back-end developer have to write some code, and the front-end developer would swoop in, do a handover, and then push it to the front end. That just didn't work well. I think being able to have one stack that talks a common language has been really, really useful. I think you're still going to have people that have both sets of skills, and I think that's a good thing. I think, like the guys at the BBC said, it's you also want people with server management skills on there as well. There's so much going on to get your application and run it in live now. You can't have one person that knows everything. So having specialism is a good thing. Having knowledge about everyone else's is also a good thing.
Yeah, just to echo, I think the separation is useful. One, I like the notion around kind of the learn once, apply everywhere, not the kind of fallacy of write once, run everywhere. And so your execution context, your runtime context matters. And I think it also there's kind of like a third area when you looked at things like React Native, right? So you essentially have you have server, you have front end, you have React Native, you have all these places where JavaScript tends to be the ubiquity there. However, the mindset is different. So from a kind of a pure function perspective, I think there's a lot of parity. However, as the folks from the BBC had mentioned, that real kind of like systems engineering pedigree is what is important to find for those folks who are kind of building your back-end systems. But then you also want very kind of rigorous engineering on the front end as well, because these frameworks, React, Angular, they are these entire frameworks unto themselves, and there is kind of a significant engineering investment there. It's not just like, hey, I've been doing some jQuery, so now just plug someone into some React and they'll be off and running.
So I'm going to come back to something you mentioned in your previous answer, Ed, which is JavaScript, the language. As a matter of interest, who is using CoffeeScript still? It's a great language. What about TypeScript? Okay, so I think, ES6 is pretty cool, and it's got all these great new features and stuff that was missing that we really needed. But it might also be a case of be careful what you wish for. Because if you look at what happened to other languages over time, they accreted all these crazy features and became bloated. And one of the things that attracted us to Node in the first place was the simplicity of JavaScript, that you could build stuff. It was an expressive language. And what I'd like to know from you guys is, do you see danger ahead in terms of what's going to happen with JavaScript down the road? And also, where do languages like CoffeeScript and TypeScript fit in to the future for JavaScript, the language?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I think the danger is a real one. You know, if you look at kind of all the translations that are happening, right? And CoffeeScript is a great kind of example of that I like to point to. You know, we used to do a lot of CoffeeScript back in the day, and where I found the real kind of value out of CoffeeScript was not CoffeeScript itself, but the code that it generated. And I would always want to look at the code that was a result of CoffeeScript so that I could become a better JavaScript developer. And so I think kind of things like, you know, where ES6 is going, where TypeScript brings us to is that if you don't understand the kind of the underlying you know, kind of runtime and the implications on the engine, you're going to kind of go down a path where you're too abstracted from the system itself.
I think so, you know, a lot of the additions we've got on ES6 are great. I personally love arrow functions, just chuck them everywhere. Transpilers, I'm not necessarily a fan. I try and steer away from them. I guess in the early, when I was learning how to program on the internet, I think the thing I liked a lot was the fact you could just view source and see what was going on, and that makes it a really easy way to learn on the internet. I think being able to, you know, pick up that JavaScript to be able to read it, the more complex we make the language, the less easy it is for people to enter it. And transpilers as well, if you can't view source and view the language, does it make it as easy to kind of learn and work out what's going on? So my preference would be nice, simple language and not transpilers. I can certainly see why people like them. And I still like arrow functions.
They come from CoffeeScript, by the way.
I know, but I hate white space for syntax.
I really like polyfills, actually. We've all got used to them, I guess, but I've programmed in lots of languages that there's no such thing. You had to upgrade and check your versions and was it compatible and stuff. And polyfills is almost like, it'll make it work wherever. You know, if you're on an old version, we'll polyfill it. Maybe this is the DIY me coming out again, right? Polyfilling those cracks. So I'm using TypeScript because Angular encouraged me to. I think it's a good challenge to JavaScript, but I kind of think JavaScript will just leapfrog it, and TypeScript would have taught us all something along the way. I also think, you know, it is more type safe, but we got good at learning how to live without that, and now I'm trying to code in TypeScript. I wanted the type freedom, so I've gone and written something in EJS to compile something into TypeScript so I don't have to touch TypeScript and it'll always have a new... Like, it's got crazy. So, yeah, it's good, CoffeeScript, TypeScript, more of it, but I think JavaScript will live on and learn from it.
Yeah, I mean, I think I probably agree with the rest of the people here in general in that I'm not a huge fan of, like, continuous layers of abstraction in the same language. Like, you know, I think... At the end of the day, like you already, like if you're running, you know, if you're doing like TypeScript to JavaScript to, you know, and then you're using Node, another layer, and then underneath that, ultimately you've got V8 and, you know, now obviously like other engines potentially, like, you know, like in the JVM world, you know, I come from a JVM, so TypeScript I actually kind of like, and I certainly, you know, appeals to certain challenges that I've faced in JavaScript, but, you know, I think that, like the ability there for different total language packages to like, you know, run on the same engine is powerful. But, you know, I agree that like if you don't understand JavaScript and you're writing something that is essentially just like really truly just turning into it at the end of the day, like it's a dangerous path to go down to. And strong developers will be stronger, you know, I think in the long run, making sure they really understand JavaScript and you know, yeah, it's debatable like how long-lived a lot of those things are, right? CoffeeScript isn't CoffeeScript dead? I thought it was dead, but maybe not. Damn it, I was hoping.
Cool. We might throw a question out to the audience. Would anybody like to ask a question out there? Offhand, someone? Anyone? Come on. Okay. So we're almost at a time there. I'm going to do a plug. So we're for the last 4 years we've run a conference in Ireland, which is not really a conference. It's more like a kind of like a holiday for Node.js people, called Conf. So the basic structure of the conference is we have taken over an island which is in the middle of a river in the southeast of Ireland, which has a castle on it and has about accommodation for a couple of hundred people. And anybody who comes to the conference gets to spend 3 or 4 days with the core Node community in an environment where it's not all about talks, so it's more about spending time together. So we're just about to open the CFP for NodeConf EU. It will be opening in the next 10 days. It's on the end of October this year, so historically we've had less applications from speakers in Europe and more applications from speakers in the United States. It's probably just the nature of how the technology is developed, but we'd really love this year to see more people from Europe talking at the conference. So I'd really encourage all of you or most of you to send in talk proposals. We'd love to see more Europeans at the conference. So have you guys got any plugs? Anything you'd like to?
Sure. Hey, we're always hiring like everybody else, right? That's a plug. Like I mentioned, hey, download the Vogue app, which we just launched recently in React Native primarily. So if you're interested in high fashion or whatever. New Yorker just released an app if you like the New Yorker more. But that's it. Get a few downloads there.
Check out the Times, just went live entirely in Node, really proud of it. And I wanted to, actually, rather than plug what the work we do, I think the web's built backwards. I want to tell more people this, that we act surprised when we get a request from a client and you have to rush around and get some data and build it. I'd really encourage you guys to build the web the other way around, so we're pushing and reactive forwards. Help me out.
Yep, we're hiring too, so if you're up north, we've got an office, come work with us.
Same. If you like Node and you like New York City, please reach out.
Or us. Either one.
Over here. Yeah.
So I'd like to thank everyone for coming to our conference today. A big, huge thank you to Ian Crowder, who's done an amazing job.